vintage wooden thread spools? Have you been wondering what you can possibly do with all of these thread spools that you may have in a drawer somewhere? If so, then this DIY Christmas decor tutorial is for you. Hi everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thank you so much for joining me today for this tutorial where I'm going to show you 3, I think, really easy and cute Christmas decor DIYs. There's going to be 1 ornament and 2 different kinds of Christmas trees. But before we get to that, I want to welcome my new subscribers. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on my artistic and crafty adventures, and welcome back to everyone who has been hanging out with me for however long you have been with me. It's been great to get to know you in the comments here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, I actually have 2 Instagram accounts these days. The first one is my kind of cross-stitch embroidery art and personal Instagram, which is Dr_Christy. I'll put that right here. But since you're watching a video about spools and spool decor, I also have a spool Instagram, which is the Spoolery, which I'll put right here, because I figured not everybody in my normal Instagram was going to want to be inundated with spool content. But if you want spool content, then definitely check that out. This is a channel about embroidery and cross stitch and other textile crafts and baking and history and the history of all of those things. So if you're interested in that and you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. Today I have 3 different spool Christmas DIY ideas. The first one is an ornament and the other 2 are more decor, like table setting or putting on a table or that kind of a thing. So the ornament is a really easy country rustic spool Christmas tree. In the tutorial I talk about that I really felt like it needed something because it looked like that when I first made it. And I added the bells because I just felt like it needed a little bit of a sparkle, and who doesn't love a bell? In moderation. Definitely in moderation. That's the first Christmas tutorial, is this, I think, adorable spool Christmas tree ornament. The second tutorial isn't quite a tutorial. It's more of a idea that is easy to put together. But that is for a cute little spool bottle brush tree that you can set out in your table or, you know, whatever you feel like doing with it. But this one isn't really a tutorial because it's not actually complicated. I just kind of told you what I did, which is fine. And the third one is also a Christmas tree. It's a bit more complicated and it is definitely a tutorial. And that is for a hardened thread. In this case, it's a chenille Christmas tree with a spool base. And what I show you how to do in all of these is the construction as opposed to the decoration, because I happen to have a lot of various threads and ribbons and vintagey things and that and whatnot. And I know not everybody has that. So what I basically am giving you is ideas and also the construction of these things. So how did I put this together and what are the ingredients? What are the components, the materials of this? So I hope you enjoy this video and that it inspires you to make some fun Christmas items out of your own collection of spools. For our ornaments, it's essentially a simple tree ornament, right? It uses 3 different spools that are decorated in some way. In this case, I took some Christmas fabric and I ripped it and frayed it and just glued it on with E6000. You have a ribbon. I used a green ribbon in this case, and 2 beads. And that's all you really need. It's much easier if you have like a big needle of some kind, but you can do it without. I actually did it with a bamboo skewer one time, which was effective. So I have for you here 3 different spools. This is essentially 2 sizes. I have a large spool and 2 small spools. These little light green spools are actually slightly smaller than these red spools, but if they're not, that's okay. I have 2 beads that have a large eye. I have a dark brown bead that's going to be essentially the trunk of the tree, the base of the tree, and a gold bead which will be at the top. And these are wooden beads. This is a bead I painted, so that's why it's gold. And you need ribbon. This is about a yard or a meter, so 36 inches of ribbon, and it's plenty. And so what you want to do is you start from the top and you tie a knot in the top. And in this case, I left about a 3-inch loop.
That's about 3 inches. I don't have centimeters on this, so I'll put the centimeters right here. And first things first, you put on your gold bead because you're working from the top. And you could do this in yarn, in any ribbon you want. You know, you don't need to use this ribbon. I just happened to get a lot of vintage ribbon on eBay, and this was in it, and it was kind of perfect. So for these beads, I actually am just shoving it through. I folded it and shoved it through, and just take it all the way to the top. And that is your star, essentially. I don't know, that's your star. And you're going to lay them out like this so that it makes a nice tree shape. And that's why it's okay if your top 2 spools are the same size, because you're turning this top one vertical and the other ones are horizontal. It looks triangular even if they're the same size. And so with this, you want to take your ribbon or yarn or whatever you're using. This is when the giant plastic needle comes in handy, and thread it through and pull it to the top. And in this case, I have some paper coming up, so I will clean that up. I like my spools with paper on them. I think that they are thread spools, and I want everyone to know that they are thread spools, and that makes me happy. So there you go. There's step 1. Step 2, you have to make sure, ooh, I'm coming undone there. Now you can decorate these spools with thread. You can actually do this kind of a thing. This is what I'm using for the thread trees. You could decorate it in the way I decorated my bristle brush trees, which is just a piece of crocheted ribbon and twine. You can put sequins on it. You can decorate these spools in any number of ways. Just, you know, make sure you like it. Essentially, you just want to like it. And in this case, it has words on it, and so you want to make sure that the words are going the same way in both of your horizontal spools. Your vertical spool, it doesn't matter because it's not going the right way, and I could have actually torn it the other way, but I didn't because I just thought of that at this moment. But you can actually make this like kind of cut the fabric the other way, or the ribbon, or whatever. So that's that. I actually work better this way, so I'm going to turn them around for me. You're working one leg at a time. So take your leg, thread it through the needle, go through the first spool, and then go back through the second spool in this direction, in the opposite direction. And that's why I like having them kind of laid out before I start, because I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So that's your first leg. And your second leg is going the opposite direction because you want it to go in and out each hole like that. So you thread your ribbon this way, and then you thread it back this way. And now I'm going to spin it around, and you pull it tight and see how centered it is, and you zhuzh it until it's centered. That's essentially what you do. And that actually looks pretty okay. So now you have the basic tree, and you take your ends, put them on, oh no, that's right, I can't do it with that. If you had a wide enough mouth bead, you could thread it that way, but I have to kind of squirrel it into a little tube and put it through that way because the needle and the 2 layers won't fit. And that is your trunk. And then you tie a little knot at the bottom, cut the ends, and you are essentially done. This knot's slightly harder just because you have to make it tight, and I find that difficult, but you know. And so you just want to make sure that it is tight, because this knot is what's holding it all together. These 2 knots on each end are what is holding this together. And that's it, my friends. That is how you make I think, an adorable little tree Christmas ornament. I do kind of want to jazz it up a bit. And so these are my ideas. I kind of want to, well, what can you do? I was thinking you could add a little bow around the middle here. You could put buttons. And in fact, you could paint these white and make it into a snowman. That would be fun. You could put some bells on it, either at the top or kind of in the middle. You could add like a gold ribbon. You could add some sparkly bling. You could add some, you know, faux berries. You know, there are all sorts of different things you can add to this if this is too plain for you. But I was just kind of going for a simple, almost like country cottage looking ornament. I kind of want to add bells to it. If I added bells, you will see them in the intro, and you'll know that they were there. At the moment, I don't know if I want to add them. But that is my simple spool tree ornament, or snowman. It could be a snowman as well. This project is just a bottle brush tree project, and it's probably the easiest of all of them. You essentially just need a fancy spool, a bottle brush tree, and a glue gun. And in this case, I decorated the spool with a crocheted ribbon and just some twine, just because I wanted it really simple. But you could use anything, really. You could use fabric, like in the ornaments that you saw, and I decided to put bells on them. You could use raffia, or this is just jute twine. I got this on clearance. It's, you know, fancy rope. You can use lace. You can, we're going to use these in a second for the next one, but it's essentially a full spool with just a little bit of ribbon and a button. This is grass twine that I got from Lowe's, the hardware store. You could use yarn. I mean, you could use anything really. Just, you know, decorate your spool however you want. And you need a bottle brush tree. And you can get these in all sorts of different places. I got this one from the Dollar Tree, and it came just on a plastic base that I just popped right off. I got some on Amazon in different colors at Walmart. That's where these came from, Walmart. But essentially you can get them from any number of places. They sell them at Michael's, but they're a little bit expensive, I think. Yeah, you can get them all sorts of places. For the most part, the bottoms just pop right off. These, however, do not. These ones from Walmart do not just pop off. So I actually had to go in with some snips and snip off the bottom, which meant that I also had to snip off some of these like bottle brushy parts too, because you need it to be able to fit in the spool. And I'm not actually going to make this for you today just because I don't have a base that's prepped. I've used all my bases for actual spools, but essentially imagine that this is decorated in some way. You take your glue gun. This is really easy. You squirt, 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 squirt. You jam that in, hold it straight, and you have an adorable bottle brush tree. And I like it because I just think that this tree is so much cuter than this tree. I just really feel like the spool with the lace and the twine and the paper. I do love a paper spool. I mean, I do love the paper that's on the spool. It just makes me feel like it's super vintage. I just think that's just so much more interesting. So that's this one. That's it. Decorated spool, a bottle brush tree, and a hot glue gun, and jam it in. The next one is also a tree, but is a bit more complicated. The tree that we're going to make today is essentially this tree, and it is, well, it consists of a spool that's been decorated, and in this case I just used a green ribbon, a gold sparkly ribbon, and a button. It has a stick. I don't know if you can see the stick in the middle, and this is just a willow branch that I got from the the floral section at Michael's, and it's supposed to be decoration, and I literally have it in the corner. If I can find a picture, I'll post a picture of it, and I just cut off pieces when I need it. It has the hardened thread. In this case, I'm using chenille, thin chenille that I got from DeVere Yarns, and it has 2 wooden beads. There's a wooden bead on the inside that is holding the weight, and there's a wooden bead on the top that's keeping it on, and you can see that it's going through there. So let's talk about our materials. The spool is just a spool with decoration, so that's pretty easy, and we can put that aside. We're not going to use that right now. You need a hot glue gun. I use the hot glue gun to attach the stick to the spool. You need a stick, so that's going to go in the hole using a hot glue gun. You want it to be relatively straight, so this is a very long one, so I'm probably going to cut off the bottom where it's a little bit curvy. But I kind of like it not perfect. I'm kind of a not perfect kind of lady. So you need a stick, but again, we don't need that right now. You don't need your hot glue gun right now. You need 2 beads. You need an inner bead, and in this case, it's just a wooden bead. You need it to be big enough to fit on your stick. And in this case, I'm gonna need to cut the stick, I think, because it needs to go down far enough. There we go. So that should be low enough. And then you need an upper bead to put on the top, and I'm not sure if I want a big bead or a little bead, and these are, I painted gold just because I thought that'd be kind of festive, and I'll choose which one I need. So you just need 2 beads and a stick, or a dowel. Dowel will work too. But what we need for now to make the actual tree part, which is this, to make this tree part, you need your material, which can be basically anything that'll absorb the glue solution. And in this case, I'm using a cotton chenille that I got from DeVere Yarns, like I said. But you can use things like lace. This is vintage lace, which I think is really pretty. You can just use a cone of fabric. You can use twine. This is just some twine, white and gold twine. Here I have one made out of kind of garbage embroidery floss. You can use yarn, you can use fabric strips, you can use any number of different things as long as it can absorb the liquid. And the liquid is not honey. It is a 50-50 mixture of wood glue and water. And the thing about this, about wood glue, is that it makes it very hard. So you see here, this is very hard. I mean, you can break it, but you know, you have to try to break it, but it doesn't dry clear. It actually dries a little bit yellow. And so you need to make sure that you're okay with that. In this case, I'm okay with that because I'm kind of going for more of a boho look. And for the teal, it doesn't really change the color, but it did change the color a bit on this color. So this is where it was and where it is now. And I'm losing the light. I'm hoping that this works okay with the light. It's getting a little bit late here. So you need your glue, you need fiber, you need plastic wrap on your surface because it's a little bit messy. You need a foam brush. I use a foam brush. You can use a sponge. I like a foam brush. And then you need your form. And what I use for a form is, I just got these at Walmart. These are just foam cones, but they don't have a top. So what I did was I made a paper top. So this just fits right on top of it, and then you have a nice cone. And then what I did was I took some more plastic wrap and I fit it over top of it. And I've just been reusing the same plastic wrap. So you don't have to keep getting new plastic wrap. You can actually just use the same plastic wrap. And that's all you need to make the cone. So what I do is I take my chenille and I make a, what is it, a loop knot? What are they called? I forget what these are called. But I just make a loop like that. Put it on my cone and tighten it a little bit, not too tight. And then you just wrap it. You wrap it around. You want to think about how you're wrapping it. You want to make sure that you have crisscrosses, and I just lost my chenille on the floor. You want to make sure, like I said, that you have crisscrosses because the structure is this fiber and the glue. So if you just have kind of a spiral, you'll have a very springy kind of a thing. So you want to make sure you go back and forth. you don't actually have to put these in spools or on sticks. You can just set them up and they're adorable and put like an electric tea light in them or just some very small battery operated Christmas lights, and they'll look adorable just like this, right? Because they'll just stand. That's fine. But I wanted to use spools, so that's why I'm using spools. If you want to stand them up like that, you need to make sure that the base is strong. The base is what's holding the weight. In this case, however, the top is what's holding the weight. So that's where I try to make sure I really focus and have a good amount of strength before I do the rest of it. And you just wind it around. You don't necessarily want no gaps, but you don't want any large gaps, especially at the top. And so at this point, I'm feeling good about the top. I am going to go back up there at some point, so I don't have to worry about it being absolutely perfect now. But it has a good base, and so if I don't get back up top very, very well, it's okay. So now what I do is I go down as far as I want to go down. I go down to the bottom of where my tree is going to be, which I'm going to say is here. And then I work the bottom. And I go back and forth with my chenille. And one thing you want to make sure that you do is that you shift it and you kind of turn it in your hand, because I was looking at it like this and that looks completely full, which is fantastic. But then if you turn it a little bit, you realize, oh, there are big gaps. So just make sure that every once in a while you give it a little turn. Make sure you're crisscrossing, make sure they're touching, make sure it's not getting too bulky in one spot with big old empty spots. And you just kind of work your way back and forth and back and forth. So by the time I'm done, this is looking pretty good. I like to end in the middle just because I think that that makes it more secure when it's done, although I don't know it matters all that much. And then you cut it. The thing I like about this chenille is that it sticks to itself. So if you're not using chenille, you may have to hold that on. But here we have a pretty good coverage. And I recommend that if you're going to be using a lighter color like this color or a white, that you use a different color paper underneath it, because for the teal, it's actually really easy to see where your gaps are and where, you know, there are places you missed. But with this color on the white, it's actually kind of difficult. So that's just a little pro tip. Now, you take your wood glue, and I've already shaken this up. So you want to make sure it's nice and shaken up or stirred. And you dip your brush in and you just put it on, soak it in. And you really want to put it on there. I mean, you want it soaked in and impregnated with all of this goodness. The nice thing about the teal also is that you can see where the glue is. But if you find at the end when it's all dry that you missed a spot, you can just throw glue on later and it doesn't matter. So if you miss a spot, it's very obvious because it's still soft. And on the blue, I don't have that problem, but on the gold and on the white especially, I do have that problem. But this is why you want the plastic wrap on your surface, because you are basically like rolling glue all over your surface. And I like a foam brush, but like I said, you can use just a sponge, or you could use a regular brush. I just don't feel like it gets the same amount of solution, I guess, on the project. So I like a foam brush, and I just happen to have a ton of foam brushes, so it's very convenient for me. And like I said, the more the merrier. You want to really load it up, especially at the top and at the very bottom. But see right there, you can see a little bit of darkness, so get that glued up. And I think that's pretty good, folks. As I said, if you find that it's a little bit dry, soft when you try to take it off later, you can just put more on it and let it dry some more, and it's fine. You can build it up and it's no problem. This, I mean, I usually let them sit overnight just because I'm not in any hurry and I have 3 going at any one time, but it definitely takes quite a few hours to get this to dry appropriately. So that is that, but thanks to the miracle of television, I have one already done. So I'm going to clean up this glue situation and we'll get down to business. So now we have a hard blue chenille or teal chenille cone that is nice and hard and does not want to come off the paper. Oh, it came off really nicely, actually. Nice. Sometimes it's actually more difficult to get off. So what I do is I pull the paper cone off of this and then I kind of work around this way. But in this case, that comes right out. And then you just gently pull out this. And this is silicone shape, so you can just put that right back on and reuse it for something, reuse it again. And then you're not using a ton of plastic wrap. And we have a cone that looks pretty good. That looks good. And it leaves little glue pieces. So that's fun. I want to use this one. I think that will look nice. Or this one. No, I like the red. The gold with the red. So we're going to do this. And the rest of this is all glue. So now that we have our hardened cone, this is where the beads and glue, and this is kind of the putting it together part. So what you need to decide is how tall you want your tree. And I like mine to not be super tall. So I would say probably to there, because remember, I do want to cut off this kind of curvy part of my willow branch. And as I mentioned, this is just a willow branch that I got a whole bundle of willow branches from the floral section in Michael's. I think you're supposed to sort of stick it in a vase in the corner and it's like that kind of decor. But I just have it sitting in the corner and it is, I clip off a piece. So I'm going to clip off the bottom of this while my glue gun's heating up. And it's relatively straight, but I find it interesting. And I kind of like the wonkiness. I like a wonky tree. And I think that that is good because this doesn't have to go all the way in. Yeah, I think that's good. But I like the gold side better for the upside. I think that's perfect. That looks perfect to me. I'll have to put a button on this later on. I apparently forgot to have buttons because I like them with the little mother of pearl button. This is a low heat gun because I often use it for finishing, for using on fabrics, and so I'm going to touch it. I don't want to burn myself. So it dries very quickly. So I need to make sure that I'm doing this quickly. So this is going to go, I think, like that. I hope so, because that's how it fits. Nope, it needs to be a little further down. So I may need to cut that off a bit. I might just cut that down. There we go. So there's that. It should still be long enough. And it's going to fit in like that. And the weight of the tree is on that section right there. It is not attached, actually. And then you put on your gold bead. But I think I want the big gold bead. So we're going to do that. That's how it works. And I just glue it all together. I glue the beads together. And then this just kind of is wedged between them. I I don't know why I don't put glue on this, but I just don't. So get back here, runaway bead. So I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on this. And since it's a low heat glue gun, it cools very fast. And I'm going to put a little bit more up around the top. Make sure it's all nice and glued, because you don't want that moving. The thing I do like about the willow branches though is that it has the nubbies, and so it does really stop it from going down too far. So then you take this and stick it through the middle. And put a little glue at the top. Get my large bead. And I like to fill a little bit of glue on the top just to make sure it's really nice and full or nice and stuck on there. And this is when you can kind of adjust it. Although they're fairly forgiving, I have to say. So now you have a little tree. And what you need is to stick it in the stand. And sticking it in the stand is just sticking it in the stand. Figuring out which side you like best and putting it in. So we're going to do that. So I just put a ton of glue inside. And some of them, in the larger ones, I actually used wood glue as well, just because I wanted to make sure it would stay. But then you put it in as far as you want and make sure it's straight. Figure out what side you want in the front, which I think is that side for me, and let it glue itself. And that's it. That's how I made these adorable things. And it's more complicated, obviously, than the bottle brush trees, right? But it's not like so complicated. It's not hugely complicated. It's just more steps, which I really like. So that's this, and I hope that you enjoy this. So I will take it back to the corner and, you know, take us home.
Well, I hope that was helpful for you and that you are excited to try making things out of your spools. If you're not interested in Christmas stuff, just a quick little idea that I didn't put together, but I wanted to show you. I got this fake air plant, I'll show you, from Walmart. And I popped it off its base. And I think that that would look incredibly cute also in a spool. So there are all sorts of different things that you can put in spools that are not Christmas related. And these kind of succulents and air plants that you can buy in floral sections of craft stores and whatnot, I think are really cute. I mean, that would look super cute in a windowsill. I don't know, I caught it. I don't know if actual air plants would live in a spool. I don't have a green thumb, so I can't help with that. But a fake one will definitely fit. That's all from me today. If you want more spool content, you can check out my Instagram, my spool Instagram at The Spoolery. And also, if you're interested in seeing the other things that I have going on, my personal and Stitchy Instagram is at Dr_Christy, and I'd love to see you over in both of those places. And in about 2 weeks, I will be participating in my first art/craft fair with my spool accoutrement, my spool decor, my spool jewelry, that kind of a thing. So in 2 weeks, so on the 19th, on November 19th, 2021, I will post a video of all of the different things that I have made for this craft fair that's going to be on November 20th. So if you're interested in seeing not just Christmas spool decor, you can check out that video in 2 weeks. Also, I want you to keep in mind that you don't have to use vintage spools for this. Modern spools work just as well. So there's no reason why you have to go out and buy vintage wooden spools if you have modern spools that you are not using that you want to turn into a decor item. You can use those as well.
I wanted to throw that out there too.
If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, or you can contact me on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And I think that's it for me. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please take good care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.